So there's not, it wasn't loss of quorum, and we came to the end of the agenda.
There was a vote that couldn't be taken because there was no quorum.
No, we
The
took
minutes
the
have
vote.
changed.
No.
They're changed. It doesn't say that anymore.
Oh, that was
It
corrected.
did say that.
So what had happened is
Oh.
Nate miswrote the first meeting
Got it,
minutes.
got it.
We came to the end of the meeting, the whole agenda was done,
Got
we
it.
left,
Got it.
we adjourned.
That's good
But
idea.
he wrote that we lost quorum, but there was no reason, there was nothing left in the agenda. So it wasn't,
You all
there
left.
was no meeting, yeah, I mean, there was no reason to keep meeting in the meeting, the whole agenda was done. So we're on approve the minutes, is that what,
Yeah.
are you got it?
All we did was approve the agenda.
And approve the minutes, so all in favor of approving the minutes?
So they vote unless no,
There's nothing?
I mean, is there automatically
I
approved?
put in the change that you,
We're set then.
yeah.
Okay, so nobody has changes.
All right.
All right. Public comments?
We have a public.
Mike, you
Well,
want
I'm
to talk
gonna
now?
wait for- Well, I saw it on the agenda, and I'll wait until it comes up.
Sure.
Thank you guys, did you go through the checks and all that stuff?
No.
I thought I saw you had some items on the agenda. If
We do have it on the agenda if you want to speak then, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll just, curious.
Do you want, would you like a copy of the?
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Whatever's best for you.
Sit up at the table, you might as well join us.
Again, two, Dick. We got
Okay.
two chairs sitting there.
No public comments, we'll go into the director's report.
Okay. I don't have a great deal to add other than what's in my report. Are there, so I guess I would start with, are there any questions about what's in there?
Yeah, I do have a question, and I got a call from somebody who is concerned from the library friends on how this is transferring. I'm wondering how we're working with them to let him know. It doesn't seem like there's much, like, should we as a board be working with Friends of the Library, or should you be working with Friends of the Library to let them know how things are gonna transfer? That's so I don't think the public, or if the library, Friends of the Library, which is pretty close to us, doesn't understand it, how's general public
So,
understanding?
is your question like how that will affect the Friends? Or, because that I don't have an answer to. I mean, you know.
Well, we kinda do, don't we?
I do. Their
Their friend boards-
existence
their
is
friend
to
boards.
support the Lake Elmo City Public Library.
And there are Friends boards
And
for
when it
other
goes
libraries.
away, they're gone. They can reincorporate as something else if they want. They can join, the individuals can join the Washington County Friends, but they will not
I
exist.
think you're wrong.
Yeah, I think you're wrong too. I think Marine has a board that, or,
They created one.
but I
They
think some
created
other library, Washington County libraries have.
There are several libraries in Minneapolis where the Nokomis Library comes to mind, where they have a local friends group. It's actually a fairly active local friends group, just for the Nokomis Library.
Oh, but in this case, our library is an entity of the county now and not the city, and it was, our
The
Friends
Nokomis
was
Library
incorporated
has
to,
always been a part of the Minneapolis Library.
so when they incorporated as aiding that particular library. So
That branch.
the Friends can re-incorporate, or whatever you call it, to become a friend of the Lake Elmo Public Library branch of the
Yeah.
Washington County Library.
We
So I
could,
guess it's,
but we, the Friends, have discussed this, and we thought, why?
What's the official name of the Friends group?
Friends of Lake Elmo Library. It doesn't say,
So there's no longer Lake Elmo Library, it's a Washington County Library.
Well, it's still.
Well, it was filed, there's
It's a Lake Elmo
a
branch
30
of the Washington County Library.
501c3 status, and it's based on doing something.
right,
Somebody needs to go and read what it's to do and maybe change the wording so that anything to do with the city of Lake Elmo is eliminated.
correct.
I think we're getting off topic, because I think what it just,
That's their
I think
business.
just, yeah, the communication with, public and with them of letting know that they can continue, they would just have to do changing of their bylaws, that if they want to support the library, it's still a possibility.
Oh, and I mean, I don't know, Paul's been at a lot of Friends meetings, and you know, I've absolutely talked with members of the Friends about potential ideas that I've had, you know,
Yep.
going forward, roles that the friends can have, ways that they could be a real advocate, for, you know, library use in Lake Elmo, and, that's, boy, I don't,
Well, okay, I mean, just to, the bigger question is, do we need to do some type of, like education or awareness that this is happening more than the people that are just more tunely aware?
yeah,
I mean, as executive director, future board, you know, the library, what are the things that would be?
we could probably, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we could do a little bit more outreach into the fresh and things like that. I don't, you know, above and beyond, I'm not sure what more we really.
Well, it's up to Washington County, and they'll, if Nate's
Absolutely.
working for them on January 1st, they will tell him what they want him to do in it.
Well,
Until then, we're not part of that
And-
system.
Well, did the citizens of Lake Elmo know that this has taken place? Because we did send out a survey that they all had the opportunity to vote on, but we have neglected to inform them the results of what has happened.
That's true, we haven't told them a thing.
Is this about the Friends, or is this about
No.
the transition
No,
library?
Trash
the-
has just said a
The
word about it,
transition and the
probably.
citizens of Lake
Well,
Elmo.
that sounds like a separate topic than what we're talking about.
Well, it's
Well, I think we
a
moved
piece
on to
of,
Friends.
it's a piece of the
didn't we?
big topic is, does community know, and then the second part is, what does the friends know? But I guess if you could put some things together that would be, you know, put in an A-frame, soon to be part of the, or, you know, your Washington Library card works here, or, you know, making sure it gets into fresh, make sure that it gets in, I don't know if you can call the Stillwater Gazette and let them know.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, I mean, there's been articles in every one of the local papers.
Nobody gets the Gazette.
But I mean, the Pioneer Press.
But we did quite a campaign with postcards and things in the past, and those have stopped. Things have changed, and we've not done any notifications since then.
Right, I would really, I really don't think we wanna spend another $2,000 sending out postcards about this. I just,
That's the county's job, their job is to
I would agree.
tell the residents we have a library.
So if you could just come up with things that at no cost that we could do. Any other questions about the director's report, or you have any?
I don't, just to get it on the record, my, stepfather passed away this morning, so I'm going to be going
Sorry.
on, some bereavement leave, pretty soon after this, just an FYI, just getting it out there.
Hopefully we don't drag this meeting
Yeah.
out too long for you.
Yeah,
Short and sweet.
yeah, so,
That's
just,
quite a run.
yeah.
I do have one question.
Mhm.
When you're working with Washington County, should they be paying for you to be working with them, or should the residents of Lake Elmo be paying with them?
When you say I'm working with them.
Well, you said you've been
when I
meeting
go to
extensively
meetings and
with
so
them.
forth, well.
I don't think the residents of Lake Elmo should be part of that. That's the county.
So, you know, I appreciate what you're saying, Steve, but the truth of it is, what we're doing, you know, what the library board and the city council, and then ultimately the county commissioners passed in June, was a resolution for our library to become part of Washington County. And
On January 1st.
and
Not until then, though.
But I think the picture is, I mean, he's a salaried person, not an hourly person. It's not like he is not doing the duties that are required here and doing the county stuff. It's more like we're asking him to do an addition.
Oh, if we're asking them,
So,
that's fine.
but it's
We
a
can
salary,
ask.
he has a salary position, so he's doing it in addition. It's not like the things at the public library here are not getting done. So I think the things that he's doing to join up with the county or in addition, so we're expecting, you know, unfortunately, we never asked. It just, he's been doing extra duties to make sure it emerges.
So you're saying he's working more than 40 hours a week now?
I'm saying he's probably doing more
Well,
than
that's
that's
the case, then.
so we're good.
I see Nate as my local Lake Elmo librarian, whether he's city employed or county employed.
Yeah,
or-
but once he's part of the county, he could be in Woodbury or Oakdale or Forest Lake. That's
I
up to
doubt
them.
it, at least not for a while.
But the big picture is that I don't think stuff is not getting done here for him to be able to do that stuff.
Well, we don't really have, we're just on a shutdown mode, so I mean, there is nothing happening.
I
It's,
think we're just trying to have a smooth transition.
You know,
so
that's
what
pretty
we're
insulting.
doing.
That's really.
Let's just-
I think that Nate's working pretty hard to make a good
I mean, we
transition.
got half our
from here to the
volunteers are
county.
gone now.
Yep.
That's not because we're ramping up. But,
All right.
okay.
Financials. Anybody have questions on the financials? I mean, I don't think.
Do we know how much money we are spending and what we're gonna have on December 31st when we get our next installment of 140,000 or whatever?
We are on pace to come up a little bit short of the $150,000 that was a portion of the agreement for rejoining Washington County.
So then that would come out of city funds then, the extra.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm doing,
Unless we can find ways to help out with that here.
yeah,
That could be part of our job, is to figure a way to maybe
Well, we could reduce staff, but
Shave
that would be a little bit strange.
$2,000 or
considering
$3,000 out of that.
We could reduce some of our part-time staff or whatever.
That'd be easy to
Well, is
do
that
just
something that's-
by adopting the county hours earlier than January 1st. If there's a slight change in hours, we could adopt that as soon as possible and
Valid.
shave a little bit of money there. Anything would be helpful, I guess.
And that amount did seem to be in flux as we were negotiating things. Is that a concrete dollar amount now?
Well,
Is there any
technically, it's a
room for
concrete dollar
negotiation
amount
with the
for
county?
the city, and not a concrete dollar amount for the library board. So if the library board goes under,
Mhm.
the city just has to make it up. So that would be what happens.
Okay.
I missed this, I've been out of town, but somebody told me that January and February, the library is gonna be shut down for remodeling. Is that correct?
nope.
Okay.
One of the things that was included.
I was gonna say, maybe we should move it up to December and
Well,
January.
one of the things that was included in the board packet this month in the Washington County rejoining up is Washington County, in one of my meetings with Keith Reiskowski, and usually, just to get back to one of your earlier concerns, Keith and I usually have our meetings, usually at a coffee shop, usually at like 8:30 in the morning, so that I can get back here by the time we open, so. But one of the things that he had brought up is that he felt like there might be a need for no more than a 1-week closure of the library, and just to make certain alterations to the building. I don't know what those are gonna be at this point.
That is exactly what they said before, and when this person told me that it was gonna be 2 months this winter, I said, what? I didn't read that anywhere.
Right.
Where are you seeing this stuff?
Yeah, 1 week is all that had been communicated to me.
Fake news.
And, yeah, and so, you know,
Thank you.
it seemed that, you know, talking with him and knowing what our circulation patterns tend to be, the week between Christmas and New Year's seemed like a pretty good week to go with, especially with concerns, financial concerns, like cutting back then, as well as, you know, what Barry talked about, you know, trying to match up with what the hours are going to be at Washington County. Once those are made available, I think both those are really good steps to take to help get to that goal.
So even though kids are out of school that week, it's pretty quiet
It tends to be
here.
pretty darn quiet, yeah, there tend to be a lot of people who go away, you know, for holidays, you know, and usually kids don't have homework then,
Have to go to grandma's house.
there's usually skiing, sledding, you know.
So a shutdown for a week then wouldn't hurt residents too bad.
I do not believe it would. So, yeah, I think that would be, you know, and I mean, and even from you know, like at a certain point, even from our staffing, you know, at a certain point, we've got to become Washington County employees, and that might be a good window for us to get, you know, like
Plus,
ID photos taken and stuff like that.
plus you guys probably want time off around Christmas and New
Wouldn't
Year's.
be the end of the
Wouldn't
world.
be there.
So, yeah.
Did everybody get a chance to look over we talked about financials and no sayings on it, vouchers? Okay, motion to approve the vouchers,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor, do we need to take a second for you to look at it, or did everybody read the packet already? All in favor of the vouchers, say yea.
Yay.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. This can get signed now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there weren't a ton of them either, and that is, I would say about the vouchers too, you know, what's in here are, really kind of, most of this is going to be end of, you know, things that were ordered before, the agreement was reached and summer stuff, and going forward, there should be really very, very few expenditures going in here. That is our plan, and, I'm really trying to hold that line. I gotcha.
Okay, as we move to the first unfinished business, parking lot, I know we talked about it, we voted on it, but the mayor asked if we would reconsider, so I'm letting him have the floor now to kind of talk about where, that's you.
Just back up a little bit, I was looking at your budget and I saw the collections, or not collections, I'm sorry, the books purchased and whatnot, so I questioned that. Found out that I think that we are understanding that it doesn't come out when a book's purchased, there's a lag and all that. I felt better about it, and he's teasing me about that, so I appreciate that. But first off, thanks, then after that, then thanks for allowing this discussion to take place, I appreciate it, the board, so. As you know, the board directed that there be lighting put with the parking lot, and it's caused a hang-up to get the parking lot done. And as we talked, Tom and I have not seen the council kind of take that motion up and direct staff to, get a bid for light, do the lightings and all that. It occurred to me that if that's not.
Council, you said?
No council member, I'm sure.
The council has no say in the parking lot at all, except to go through the board here.
No, I understand that, what I'm saying is the lights were, we can't get the parking lot done without your okay.
Right.
Right? But with that okay, you said, okay, but we want lights. Right, well, the council hasn't accepted that argument, motion, direction, right, so we're kind of at a loggerhead. And demonstrably, the council has, no council members, the five of us hasn't picked it up and said, let's get bids.
How much money does the Parks Commission have left over, about 1.5 million, 2 million?
See, let's
No,
finish,
no,
sorry,
they don't.
Not
Not
nearly
quite,
that
no.
much.
let's just finish.
But
that.
anyway, so just, looking at it, saying, okay, well, this will mean that we won't be able to put a parking lot per our agreement with the county in until next year. We can talk about the validity of the lights, if we like, but the reality of it is, I haven't seen council action on it, so is this just not going to compel us to pay more money next year? And that was the reason I talked to Tom, seeing that there's been no action on the lights. Could there be a revisit by this board to say, okay, we gave it a go, and we accept that the council's not
So,
gonna act?
the quick question then is, you feel would be a higher bid, do you have a second bid that would be, are you just assuming it would be higher? I don't.
Oh, on
it's
the
just
parking
a-
lot?
Yeah, you said it'd be higher, but do we really know, did they say?
I don't know that. I assumed that when you and I were talking, I hadn't heard back from them, that they would hold it, right? So I'm thinking, well, if they're not gonna hold it, if they haven't responded, my guess comes April, May, or whenever we do it, bidding seasons being what they are, I would expect there to be an increase. I might be wrong, but it would seem like there would be. So, but now, since we've talked, they apparently gave verbal okay of putting in a parking lot at that price next year. So it kind of changes the tenor of this conversation a little bit. It's not as urgent, but I still fall back on the fact that we said we'd get a parking lot in January, and I'd like like to see it get done. So.
Is this a parking lot that meets city code? You have more than 15 spots, you have 10% for internal trees and all the rest of it, and you have proper landscaping and all that that's required by city code?
I don't
Or
know.
did she just go out and bid it?
So,
without
When
knowing
you
what
say
the code
she,
is?
our engineers were
Steve.
definitely, involved in it. So if you mean our administrator alone went out and bid it on her own, of course not. And I would
I don't
expect
know,
that
I
there'd be a
don't know.
parking lot which would be much improvement than what we have now and have had for.
If it hasn't got
Many, many
landscaping,
years.
it doesn't meet the code.
but so, what I wanna do is ask Brett to just come up with a little bit of history of the parking lot and the things that we proposed, if you just wanna do a brief history, or did you? And, I mean, just briefly tell about the times that we tried to do it, what went on, and then we can open it up, if anybody wants to put it on the floor to have a vote, we can put it on the floor, but right now, we don't have a vote or any type of motion. So what we just quickly discuss, and then we'll decide whether or not we even wanna vote on it, because we don't have to vote on it.
Right.
And I gather that some of the discussion was that, you know, we've kind of been behind on this and we've kind of let a lot of time pass. I mean, I got a little bit of a, we've just been kind of sitting on our hands. I haven't really done anything, so we should feel like we should get it done now, even if it's not including all the elements, all the pieces that we thought were important. So I did go back and take a look at it, and even at the council meeting, I hadn't really gone into sort of all the different pieces that have become part of this project, because it has taken on a few more pieces and some of the safety concerns, and I thought it was more or less kind of just a formality to go to the city council, but found out that was not the case, that there was actually a different plan that was put on the table, and so it kind of got the shifting. So yeah, I can go back through, since it's all been a little while, I can show you what was involved in the project and how it's different than what's being proposed as far as a parking lot only, if that helps, just kind of remind everybody that it wasn't for the city council meeting, but.
If it's obviously, to me, I don't know that it's.
Oh, just for
that-
everybody, or.
But for everybody, yeah, you mentioned you, so it's not something.
We've had it on our
Can you see?
radar too. Wake up my computer again since I got
Or
it.
just, so we're gonna hear the history of.
I think just like a few minute
An
discussion.
overview.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it won't be half an hour
Whatever you,
dissertation.
board wants.
It won't be a half an hour dissertation.
I hope not, people probably like to get over it, don't they?
Yeah, the board doesn't want to
Oh,
go over this, I just wanna make sure people understood what.
And he has family to worry about, so
Back
he'd rather
in,
not be here.
But he's got it.
Yeah.
So- we initiated the project, we went through, we hired someone, we decided we wanted to go out and get proposals from 3 different design consultants. We got proposals back, and they came back with we ended up selecting Confluence. Some I've worked with in the past, I've worked with most of the firms that have submitted something. They had come up with some concepts for the parking lot, which included greenscape, water treatment type of things. I had come up with 2 concepts, so this was in June, I guess just trying to give or May, sorry, of 2016 kind of overview of when they had come back with a concept of what the parking lot looked like, a design. We actually had 2 concepts, so this all came to the library board. At that point, this was the idea of more of a surface feature where you'd have plantings, quite a bit of landscaping and trees mixed in there. We had another one that was a bit more formal with a little kind of plaza area there to the left of the parking lot, and then a walkway that would take us on over to the park to the east. On the right-hand side would be Lions Park on that side, to the left-hand side would be Lake Elmo Avenue, our building. Obviously there's a big brown blob. This one would have had more underground type of tree trench kind of things. We thought we could squeeze that in the site, give us a little more surface walkway kind of ability, more of an outside space, at a bit more cost. We started recognizing at that point, and the library board and our design consultant was asking about, well, what about the connection over to Lake Elmo Avenue? So you can see right there we had some kind of a small sidewalk running across the building and trying to get some parallel parking in there. Kind of look at the overall downtown, and there's where the library sits. Lake Elmo Avenue is on the bottom there. And looking at the work that had been done on the downtown, our consultant took a look at this and said, there is certainly goals for the downtown area to try to encourage, expand pedestrian use within the downtown, reinforce the private businesses and the movement.
So Brett, did you see when you were coming up with these, was there city code, did we present this to somebody, or did we even need to get, I mean, where were we at with that aspect?
I'll get to that in a minute. So I think
Yeah.
at this point, we were just coming up with a design that we liked, that we wanted to move on to final design. We started to engage the city around this time and say, we're coming up with a design. And they were like, well, yeah, we'd like you to come and present it to the city. We think the city should take a look at this. And they're like, yeah, we want to partner. And we had originally asked if the city would do a lot of the engineering for us, or the county, since they were doing a downtown project. They said no, they didn't want to. We asked the city engineer said, no, we think we should be in a review role here and not helping you do the design on it. So we ended up down that pathway. So as we looked at this and we were doing the parking lot and coordinating with the city, we also said, well, you have Lions Park on one side, you have the downtown area on the other side. You have people here that want to get to the library from the parking lot, but also potentially from downtown. You know, I think one of the things we realized, and this came up in terms of a safety issue, was lighting was something that would be provided with this, but also just this idea that we want to be able to have people safely move back and forth. And I think at the city council this was discussed and kind of set aside as not a major issue, which I don't necessarily agree with, is people could, and it's true, people could come out of Lions Park, they could come up Laverne and come around to 36th Street, come across, come back down, and that way they could get into the downtown area. But we also, and they could also go to the south, they could come down to that street, Upper 33rd, come back around and come back over. I know apparently there's a coffee shop now proposed next to the barber shop, that's at least the barber shop told me. So the idea was that people could move back and forth, and I think that's true, but I think if you're a 5-year-old kid or a 10-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid or a older person like myself, and you're sitting at Lions Park and you're seeing a parking lot and a library building with their restrooms or any other downtown businesses, I think what's your natural inclination going to be? It's going to be you're going to want to walk through that area and get there. So I think you can either be walking through a parking lot where people are backing up and pulling in and trying to move around, or you can walk on a sidewalk that would be separate from the parking lot that would get you back and forth to the downtown area. So that started to become this idea of maybe we need to look at this besides just the parking lot and see what it means for people moving back and forth.
I can't think of an example where kids would be going from Lions Park to Lake Elmo Avenue though, because when Lions Park is really busiest is night when they have baseball games, and the last games get over, it's usually 10 o'clock, let's say. There's nothing open on our main street for them past 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock,
The libraries?
7 o'clock.
Well, if they live in town.
Well, we've got to get Lions Park used. I mean, I spent.
Lions Park is heavily used, but I can't see
Well,
people
I
migrating
think
from
where-
Lions.
I think what I was just asking for, Steve, was just a quick overview of like the process, what the city required us, and then we can decide whether or not we're gonna vote. I don't,
So we have shops and future businesses, and the whole idea was to kind of let people move back and forth in a safe way, so this became part of it. So at that point, we agreed with the design consultant and thought, yes, it would be worthwhile to look at that more closely and come up with a kind of a revised version of what this looks like. So this would have been in July. We came back with a concept that said, well, because of those kind of connections and people moving back and forth, let's take a look at these two different concepts that we have here in terms of how the water would flow and how the sidewalk would be next to the parking lot and all the landscaping to make it very nice, but also take a look at what it could mean in terms of a walkway. So this was starting to get further into the design where it has a sidewalk along the parking lot. It would have a crossing. It would come across to a new sidewalk area, and actually we started talking about that really just becoming more like in better seasons, that could be an outdoor area that could be used by the library and just the public in general. And at this point we also, so let's see, I think we had some more, kind of looked at a design possibility that would be more of a straight through, kind of pass through with a few outdoor areas, patio areas, or trying to just kind of make it more of a zigzag so that it'd be pedestrian friendly and create some different kind of outdoor rooms is kind of the concept here.
We voted to do the zigzag, didn't we?
Yeah, so we then ended up
vote.
deciding on this, so now we added another element to the project and decided this would be definitely worthwhile, good for the community. There's all sorts of different ideas of what that outdoor space could look like. We were kind of definitely leaning towards the modest side of let's just create it and we'll decide how much we want to do. But we could certainly put benches out there and tables and picnic tables and kind of lounge chairs and planters and things like that. So now it became more usable space both for the library and the city as a whole. And I guess I don't have a picture of this, but there was also a concept where we approached the landowner to the north of us who had changed hands recently And they actually seemed very interested and excited about this idea and wouldn't mind trying to extend the same theme across to their building. Because I guess the thing we realized along here as we talked more to the county is that that alley area was not gonna, is being cut off on Lake Elmo Avenue. We couldn't get cars in and out of there safely, so we couldn't even really use it for parking. So now it did become kind of dead space that we were trying to figure out what to do with. Apparently the new, kind of surprising,
So
the new
did-
landowners that came in also said they would be still interested in trying to do that concept. We would certainly keep our part of the work on our property, but if they wanted to mirror something on their property, they could.
So did we ever go to city for permit, or how, did we, because we did a vote on this plan, and we had the funding for it, did we ever go to city or not? That's the
Yeah, so we
question.
did go to the city, and so we have a couple, I just pulled up a couple of the review letters by the city. So in September 2016, we got a comment letter from the city of several items that they wanted to see. They wanted to see modeling, and they wanted to see things like that. They wanted to see corrections of the soils we weren't sure that we needed. Gave us, guidance on what the lighting had to be and all these types of things. And I mean, I guess it was our understanding that we needed to do this. The city said, yeah, they want to review it, and their engineer said, no, we're not going to do the design for you because we're going to be reviewing this on the part of the city. That would be conflict of interest. We need to give you an approval on it. So we went through back and forth with the city on this a bit, and actually trying to get the engineer on board. We did have a few issues of trying to find an engineer that wanted to take a look at this. Just it's a fairly small project, and just having to deal with the city of Lake Elmo was part of what they said. So we did finally bring somebody on board. This was the second review letter from the city. Now into June of 2017, I mean, actually, I think some of these comments we actually did address, and we did change our design. That seems like they didn't catch all of those in that second round of review. But we did go through a couple of rounds of review from the city's engineering resource that, take a look at all the different things, lighting, landscaping, various things that we needed to do to stay within the city code. So back at this drawing, and also, aside from looking at that, we also then started getting pulled into this whole discussion about now that they're tearing up Lake Elmo Avenue, and how do we get into our building and meet all the safety requirements, ADA requirements, and would we want to try to do some small landscaping kind of thing out front? We looked at a couple different concepts here. If you recall, the board looked at that and took a look at this and said, yeah, it could be done. We kept talking to the county. The county's project actually just kind of moved right past us, and they went ahead and installed what they thought would work, and it turns out the ADA was not as big a deal as what people seem to think it was at the time. And so at this point, it was left up to us, or if we wanted to cut out some of the concrete and put in something ourselves, or do planters that are actually on top of the sidewalk, that's certainly.
Let me take 1 minute right here on that,
Sure.
because I personally met with the county out there. I told them that I had done my own informal survey, and that there was a pocket, a low spot in the road projected in front of our entrance, and that if they don't want a pocket there, they have to raise the road 6 inches. And if they raise the road 6 inches, that raises the sidewalk 6 inches, which was just what we needed to have a direct entrance into our library. They were kind of,
Aside from all the back and forth.
They weren't
with Lake
happy,
Elmo Avenue,
but then I
kinda
went
came
to
to this
Colorado
point.
for a couple of weeks, and when I came back after they had written me a letter saying, we disagree with everything you said, when I came back, they had done exactly what I said, except for the fact that they trespassed on our property without giving any warning to the library board at all, and filled it in with concrete.
So at this point, we had put together this plan. We had kind of walk lighting, kind of bollards that would be down low, there'd be up overhead lighting, there'd be a safe way for people to move back and forth. And after the council meeting, we even said if we took the water treatment out of it, but still had the landscaping, is that something I know Nate was trying to kind of see if he could pull together sort of a compromise there. Apparently that fell apart. So I mean, I think at this point, I just felt like it was a well thought out plan. We had a kind of a community-wide asset. Hopefully the county will look at that in their terms, and so, yeah, I think with those kind of pieces, I didn't see jumping to this other kind of quickly put together approach.
So understand, I mean, the reason I had read to this is 2 of you were on after this whole thing was looked at. So understanding what Mike had to present about let's just get it done, to what we've gone through. I mean, does anybody want to put it on the floor to vote on this again, or just, I mean, do you have anything else as far as reasons why, if it's not a savings of money, of reason why it would be?
I don't think I need to respond to that, I don't think you want me to.
No.
I there's much to talk about there, different perceptions, but why I'm here tonight is to talk about the lighting parking lot. And if the council isn't taking it forward for a variety of reasons that I can go into, maybe not variety, maybe one or two, can you recognize that and pull the caveat of the lighting with the parking lot and allow us to get parking lot?
What are the consequences if we don't put parking in?
In this year or permanently, or what do you mean? Permanently?
County.
Well, I guess, I don't know, I guess we would not be abiding by our terms, by our agreement. Is that a huge wrinkle? I don't know, I guess it's not really occurred to me, because I'm sure the council will put parking lot in either this year or next year. So could the county say, well, you're null and void of the agreement? I suppose they could. Would they, or would there be something else to discuss? I don't know. But I think, a large thing, which I'm sure you get, is, is it, would we be acting in good faith? And is that something we want to do? I wouldn't think so.
Is it possible for us to recommend that the parking lot be paved as soon as possible, but make a recommendation that lighting needs to be added to it?
Now, keep in mind that you're talking to the board here, because we make the decision. Council does not make the decision at all.
Well,
Everybody recognizes that.
Well, Barry's talking to you.
We make the decision. If you want to take the decision over on the lights, you can do that.
Right, exactly. It's our responsibility to decide what we want to do.
So Barry, your question was.
But you would need the city to agree on that. just
If
like
it
we
meets
would do the
code,
parking lot.
if it meets code, we can
Well,
do anything we want.
Okay, let's just start with the premise that you can do this. I don't know, the city owns the property, it's.
No, the city owns the deed. It doesn't own the right to use it.
Steve, I don't,
If I own the deed, that's pretty important, pretty
No.
crucial, but maybe you've got a different understanding of that than I.
Well, you're a city
What I'm
attorney,
saying
you
to you
told
is
us.
this: if you wanted to put the lights in, I imagine you could, but I don't know how the council would look at that. I think that, as to Nate's point before, we're already gonna be dipping into the general tax revenues. Last I heard, perhaps $6,000, we don't really know. I'd like you to recognize that, and I appreciated the discussion earlier about how to, maybe there'd be ways to address that. But, you've got your customers, as said Nate, and I've certainly got mine. And do I, is lighting valid to discuss? Certainly. But right now, I think that it's not an exaggeration that I don't think to have the perspective that you feel you have some leverage and you're going to use it. But my main point, and I'm sorry, just bear with me just one moment. My main point, my main theme here is the council doesn't seem to be interested in putting lights in. Not myself, not the four of us. We haven't acted upon it. So that's why I was here.
Well, I do have a question. When we started the renovation committee, we were looking at remodeling the interior of the library, and we were told from day one that there was money available to do this. We were told that there was money available to do the parking lot. Initially, it was going to be the city paying for a portion of it, Lake Elmo paying for a portion of it.
Right.
We apparently, at that time, from my understanding, had funds available to accomplish what we just saw on the wall. Where did that money go?
It's our cash reserve.
this is the cash reserve
Do we
that
still have a cash reserve?
Well, we've guaranteed to turn it over to.
No, that's,
So my,
December
and my,
31st,
the next
we're
part of
gonna
my
give them.
question is there
that's
still
future cash
a
reserve.
cash reserve, and then we do get funding at the end of the year, so where is the
Yeah.
budget that accounts for all of this money that used to be there and doesn't seem to be anymore, and now we're in a deficit? I'm really not understanding this.
Sure. The library currently has operating revenue. And the operating revenue we have is, how government organizations tend to work is, you receive disbursements of cash in Minnesota twice a year. And to bridge the gap between those two periods, you have a cash reserve. And so it gets depleted until it's replenished, and then it's depleted until it's replenished. As part of the agreement with Washington County, we agreed to, at the end of 2017, we agreed to turn over a cash reserve amount of $150,000. That amount, and my, you know.
I understand
That's,
that.
that's totally
Mike,
different.
Mike,
She's
that's
talking
not
about
my
the money we
question.
had
My
above and beyond that.
question
We,
is, when
if
we
we were
had
operating,
funding, when we
let
did
him
have
speak, let her
funding for
speak.
all of this, where did that funding go?
All of the projects that we were talking about revolved around us spending cash reserve on them.
where's the cash reserve?
It's still there.
How much is it?
It is, at
That's
the
exact.
present, we are looking at the end of the year, our cash reserve is going to be around $144,000.
Okay,
can
and
we
then we're
get-
going to
and how
get
much do we
another
get?
amount
No,
of money.
that includes
That
the
includes the
additional.
second.
What
Wait a
is
minute,
it
we have no
today?
reserve, in other words.
Nick, what is it today?
We have no
spent the
money
entire
for any
cash
construction
reserve?
work.
Because.
Well, I
when-
don't know why, the thing is,
Why were we wasting
The
our
150
time on this? if
you're
we-
right, you're exactly, that's, you hit the nail on the head.
We always thought we
Is-
had enough money for a parking lot. That was the job of
That's
the
We
why
did
I
staff.
have
started
it.
the renovation
Why did we
committee.
spend
And
$25,000 or
what we're
whatever it
told
is
along
on
is there's plenty
engineering?
of money.
when we
I
had
wanna
no money
know
to
where
build
it went.
anything.
So the $150,000 that we have turnover is part of the reserve and part of our second payment, and it equals that $150. That's the money we would have spent.
But we had 300,000 at the end of this year, 150 for construction work, either inside this building or the parking lot or some of both, and enough to operate for 6 months. Where's the 300,000?
It was never 300,000.
Well, then I think
Well,
the
how do
board
we get
was
an
completely
accounting of
screwed
that
up because
money?
we all spent a lot of time working on this kind of stuff, thinking that we could afford, we had a
And why was
budget to pay
why was
for
the
it.
renovation committee set up if there was never any funding to accomplish what we were set to do?
I'm gonna say this again. One of the things that the library board decided to do in order to complete these projects was to spend down their cash reserve. And what ended up happening is, while you were getting ready, at that same time, political wind shifted and a different agreement came into place that did not include spending, it did not include spending down the cash reserve. Instead, the agreement that was reached included turning the cash reserve over to Washington.
No.
All right, well,
That's
let's,
not right.
let's go
We
back
have to have $150,000 every December 31st so we can fund the year. So if we ever had a cash reserve, we could never build anything. We had to have $300,000 at the end of the year,
Well,
and we
did you
did
think-
last December
see, this
31st.
is,
Did you think you're gonna have $300,000 in excess?
We had it last
to-
December 31st.
Right, and you have to get through the next 6 months, but I'm saying, I'm just out of.
Yeah, you're right.
You thought you were gonna have over
That's what we
300,000?
were told.
Can I just, you thought you were gonna have over $300,000 December 31st, plus,
Not
100
plus, not
okay,
plus.
So strip 350, or 300 grand.
150 for projects and 150 to get through just January or July 1st. And that's why we did all this work, and we spent a lot of money on plans, a lot of money on plans. We didn't know that we had zero money.
well, let's just cut to the reality instead of this.
I think we have.
Reality is, are we gonna put it on the table to vote again? Are we just gonna be done? And
Do we have any money? It sounds like we don't have any money, so why are we even?
It has nothing to do with the money, it has whether we are gonna allow the city to put the parking lot in. It has nothing to do with our money.
Oh, with the city money.
Yep, there you go. So that's all, do we wanna vote on that, or do people back their change?
Just
Because
for
I
point
just
of
want.
clarification, let's say I wanna put the parking lot in, if I'm the city, right? And you're the library board. You're not letting me, because you're putting a lighting
I thought it
aspect
was
of it.
our money.
Right, I got it, it doesn't matter, but that, and, you know, I mean it pleasantly as we can. You're preventing me from putting a parking lot in because you're attaching lighting to it, which we haven't gotten a price for nor we have estimated. And I'm just saying, doesn't seem like I'm interested in lighting, we let me get the
If
parking
you're
lot
gonna
in.
pay for it and it's going to the county, I
Well, no,
couldn't give a
I'm not
rip what
agree-
you do.
The parking lot, are you saying?
I couldn't care.
Okay, then
As
you
long
would
as it
say,
is code.
I'm fine with removing the request for lighting. That's how
Well,
you go.
if the code doesn't require lighting in a public parking lot, which I can't imagine it would.
I mean, we have the worst code in the world. Let me go back to
Yeah,
Woodbury.
yeah.
Woodbury,
let's-
Woodbury
let's go to-
said when they built their city hall, we are gonna build a model so that people that come into our city and build are gonna look at what you've done and use it as a guide.
Well,
Are
how
we
about-
doing that
how about
by
if it's
putting
this
in a
way?
piece of
I mean,
garbage?
Steve, what it would be this way is if we approved it, and the city puts it in and it's not into code, it's their responsibility.
Well,
So it isn't our.
no, it means we gotta pay $10,000 or $20,000 to hire a lawyer and force the city to do things according to code.
We don't even have a motion on the floor, so we don't, I don't.
If it's going over, it's going over. You won't-
If we have no money,
Entertain a motion.
No.
I'll make a
Did you have a
motion.
question? Why would, if you're gonna vote no, why are we having a motion?
No,
I'm thinking he's.
if we have no money, I thought we had $150,000. I just found out today we have nothing after 5 years on the board.
Okay, let's put a motion.
I thought we had a reserve fund for this.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, what is the motion? That we vote for the library, or for the parking lot? To allow the city to put it in the parking lot, is that your motion?
With, if it's possible that we add a recommendation that the county or city looks at increasing lighting if possible. But the motion would be to get the parking lot paved as quickly as possible so residents don't have to deal with dirt and mud out there anymore.
Do you have a second on it?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment, I'm seconding it with a friendly amendment that the library board authorizes the city council to put in a parking lot on our back lot in total compliance with the city code. Which really should be automatic, because they can't do it if they don't meet.
Okay, so
I
you're,
have some discussion on
But
that.
I'm not sure
I
that
some
they have looked at
discussion
the
on
code.
that.
well, I
We
think,
have had the front of our street frontage with only one curb cut to get into the building. So, Steve, you are requesting that everything be done according to code when nothing so far has been done
Well,
according
you're
to
right.
code
You're
or
right.
request. So please consider what you are suggesting.
Well, it's better than saying, maybe put some lighting in. I mean, what they did there is a
No.
disgrace.
What you did was you made a friendly amendment.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's all I
okay,
did.
so let's vote on the
This
friendly
one-
amendment, on
But it
whether or
wasn't
not.
seconded.
Do you have any second
No.
friendly amendment? Failed.
Failed. Okay.
All right, so now we're just voting on whether or not we would allow the city,
Was the
Put in-
motion seconded?
yes, Paul seconded. So allow the city to put in a parking lot, and then it's up to them to make sure it's into code. That's not our responsibility anymore. If the code requires lighting, if the code requires drainage, if the code requires whatever, that's not our responsibility, it'd be their responsibility. So,
Well,
the motion second, any discussion before we vote? Yeah, go.
From what we've heard, unless there's some explanation behind it, the city has not sounded supportive of the lighting. I'm not quite sure I understand that. And I appreciate that it's being characterized that the city wants to move forward with the project, but it sounds like the library is creating an obstruction. Because I kind of go back a little bit further and say, the library's worked on this for quite a while. The city council voted to support it and cost share it, and we came to the city council to get the final approval so we could get it built. We'd probably be under construction right now. But then at that point, the city decided, no, we're not going along with what you have been working on. We've got a new approach. So I just feel like that to me is another way of looking at it besides that.
It's a way of looking at it, that's for sure.
So you don't.
It's not how I
agree
look
with that?
at it,
You
no,
don't?
absolutely
Because why
not.
not? That's the way I look at it.
I just think it's gonna be argumentative, and I think it serves no purpose. If it provides comfort for this board to feel that the city made the mistakes, then
I'm
feel
not
that way.
saying mistakes, I'm just saying if you're characterizing it,
Delay.
as we're being obstructionists now and not wanting to kind of go along and try to get something done, I feel like
I didn't,
backing up a little bit, there was a
I
time when the
didn't
city
use
could have
those.
gone along with what they.
it's fair to say that it could be, construed that obstructionist might be my term. I don't think I use that term. I'm just here stating the obvious. And it's been told to me that this is leverage, that we feel we're in a strong position. So we can both, mince words or, try to understand there's some nefarious going on. I'm just here to say that the reality of it is, if we think it's important to put a parking lot in, let's put it in. The council hasn't weighed in on the lighting, but it's as if to say the council said no to the lighting. That's the conclusion.
How is that?
Because the council is well aware that you added the lighting to it. And the council, it's been over, what has it been, 6 weeks? We've had 2 workshops at least. And we've had a couple of council meetings, so the council hasn't said, hey, let's figure out that lighting.
Yeah.
Maybe the council will.
Well,
but
my
they
mother
haven't
passed
yet.
away in July, so I'm not on top of everything as I should be.
Okay.
But when we had a proposal for a parking lot, and it was what the board did vote to put forward, and conceivably, we are the deciding factor, it doesn't seem, feel, or look to me like we are. It looks like we are being asked to accept what you are bringing forward, not you accepting what we are doing, which is the complete opposite of the way my understanding is that this should be set up. So when you say that you don't want lighting, what we want is a proposal that Brett put together, and
Yes.
and that is what we submitted. And why is it that the city council, why aren't we, going to the city council and saying, we are the governing board, we are responsible for this? And why is it that the city council is not accepting that?
Okay.
So
Let me
I think
just-
there might
I'd
be,
like to respond
I
to
think it
this.
might help us just get to a vote is if you, I don't know if it matters that you answer, like if we just go
I
back
mean,
to.
I'm hoping it does because maybe there could be a different perception.
But there
of
might
what's
be,
been
but,
going on. I know it might not help me, or help the argument, but whatever one thinks about what's gone on, I think it's safe to say if the project came forward in 15, 14, if it came forward with a third of the rapidity that the fire building over here, the fire department, it'd been a done deal. It would have been a done deal, based on the last council. You reference a vote, the last council. They probably would have done it.
Fire
But it
department
didn't come through. It didn't come through, so there's a delay. And when we talk about the board, that we're independent, okay, and we're the masters of our own universe.
Well, I'm not
But in the
saying
same
that. Nobody
15
said
minutes,
that.
we talk about how it's the city's engineer's fault, something that some administrator did. I hear it in the board all the time. And why should that, I mean, you think the city should help Valley Ranch Watershed come up with some engineering plans for a parking lot they want to do? We're 2 taxing authorities. So if you want the authority, but back to the main thrust, I'd say, to answer your question, is the reality is the city taxpayers are going to pay for it. And I'm representing the city taxpayers. And maybe 95% of them want the dang lighting. But I'm representing them, and I think that our levy rate's going to go up significantly. Our levy rate's going to go up. And you might feel you've got the authority. What you really have the authority to do is hold this and put it in a holding pattern, because the city's going to have to back down
See, if
your
my
actions.
memory is correct, we were told initially that we had nothing to do with any of this. And then somebody apparently did some research and found out that we did. So now we have to approve everything, although the council
Well, that's the
didn't.
state code requires it.
But that was not the way we started
Well,
out with
it
this
was.
project.
Yes,
let's
it
just,
was.
I think I'm gonna just, I think we should just have a
But
vote.
wait,
first.
wait,
Let me bring up a couple
Well,
of
if we
points.
force the vote, we
First
just
of
have to
all,
vote.
we're going to raise our levy for library by 40%. We're gonna pay at least $40,000 a year more, starting this year, assuming the county doesn't build the Cottage Grove and the Maple, and the Montemita libraries. So forget about money. We're throwing all kinds of city money away.
So Steve,
The
I'm,
lighting is part of the
I
code,
think we've had-
the landscaping
we've had
is part of
discussions,
the
so what-
code, they cannot,
I'm gonna do-
the fire department just redid what they've got. They had a paved lot, they just repaved it as is. We have something new, we have to meet code.
okay,
If the city wants to meet code and they wanna pay for it, I'm part of the city, I think it's appropriate. If they think it's okay to have the kids leave the games at 10 o'clock at night to get to their cars over in our lot, which is the only place they park, and have no lighting, that's our council. They do things like that
Usually when
these
the kids
days.
leave the games, that whole field is lit up in the whole area.
So
Alright,
they're,
so-
so in other words, the county is gonna put lights in there,
Steve,
whether
what I'm
we
gonna
do or
do is
not.
I'm
That's
just, we're
simple.
gonna vote. So could I have you reread the motion?
Barry,
I probably didn't word it very
Yeah.
good, maybe
We
we can
reworded
clean
it.
it
We're
up.
good.
to proceed with the parking lot quote that was approved by the city council with a recommendation that the council or county do what they can to include lighting in the project. that sound?
Review light, at least look at it. And
Well, what about this?
Okay, so all in favor of the motion, say yay. Yay. All opposed, nay.
Hey,
It doesn't meet code. You can't, I'm not gonna vote for something that doesn't meet code. It has to have the landscaping requirements.
Pass 4-3.
Okay.
Can I say something?
No, please.
Well, it might be well met, I don't know. I appreciate you considering it and bringing it back up. And I'll be one that tries to find out how much it costs for the lighting, and maybe there's something there that we can do.
Well, what about finding out
And
if
if
the code
if I
requires
may,
lighting?
if I may, but it would be a lot easier argument to pass if at a future council meeting, council decides to put lighting in, is if the board recognizes that we're gonna be 6,000 light already, and maybe there could be something that you could act upon. In other words, if you imagine a meeting and saying, yeah, but they're doing all that they can, and look here, they've done this to further rectify it, so we're not gonna have to dip into our pockets too bad, perhaps we can put some lighting up. So I did wanna mention that and mislead you, but I think I'm gonna try to take it. I will say that there's been no lighting up there for, if we're talking about Lake Elmo baseball's been around for 40 years, 30 years, I don't know, 20 years, I don't know.
A lot more than
They're
that.
not
And
there
there
in the
hasn't
winter
been
night when it's dark. It gets dark at 5 o'clock
I
at
know,
night.
we're
There's no
referencing
baseball
Lake
there.
Elmo
Pitch
baseball,
black.
but I am gonna take it forward, and I really appreciate.
Well, keep in mind, it's pitch black in all winter.
Can I make
You
a
can't
comment on
see
that?
out there. Barry made me never
I'll
go
be
outside
really
then. I
quick.
don't know.
I walk my dog through here every night because I live
So
a
in
block.
December, it's sunny and bright.
So I walked through here Monday night just to look at the lighting situation, and the alley has a couple lights on it. There's a pole kind of either end of the building here on opposing sides. And what they've put on there is probably the replacement for what they call those Cobra lights.
Right.
Except I believe they're LED, they're really focused
They have
and
to
they're
be.
bright white. So you get just a small white light shining down on the alley. In the parking lot out there, there's actually 2 more poles, one at each end. And if there was something as simple as the Cobra lights installed on those poles, which I believe is pretty
They have to meet
inexpensive.
code.
It
They
would-
don't meet code anymore. Nobody in the United States is using them.
All right,
Read about it.
let's keep going down. So let's look at the rejoining Washington County, the updates. Anybody have questions? If you're given to it in the packet, you should have read it. Anybody have questions about rejoining Washington County?
what was the result
What?
of that vote?
4-3 for it.
Okay.
One thing would there be board interest in that I potentially closing just potentially closing the library that week I talked about earlier between Christmas and New Year's? So that some of that work can take place.
Can you show us how much it'll save us? Save the taxpayers of Lake Elmo?
And can we get an accounting of what's going on here? Because I'm looking at expenses and I'm looking at the salary and it's like $3,000 more including PTO payout. Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when a employee is terminated, there is a payout of their remaining
Sick and vacation.
sick and vacation time. That is true of any employee under any circumstances. I have accrued vacation time for a variety of, and been unable to use, I will be unable to use the bulk of it in the 3.5 months that I will remain in Washington County.
How much time do you have accrued?
Over 3 weeks right now.
And that's well within the city limits.
So
That's
would one of
not-
those weeks be spent when the shutdown between
Yeah,
Christmas and?
potentially, yeah, so like there's a chance for that, absolutely, that could eat into that as well.
So is it in the actual bylaw? I mean, it's not by law that we have to pay for PTO. I think that, I mean, what I would have to do is, do we have it in our specific articles that we pay for paid time off? That we can reimburse? I mean, it's not a state law.
Right, it is
I
not a
guarantee,
state law.
because I own
If we
it.
are trying to cut
But,
back, it would be
but
a
I'm
good
not,
idea just
but I'm
to
not
take
saying
that
we
time
don't,
off,
but I'm
maybe.
just saying, is that in, and I'm fine paying you with it, I'm just saying, just clarification.
No, it is, the library follows the employee handbook of the city of Lake Elmo, and that is the policy included within
Okay.
that handbook.
Probably the only thing that if Nate had built up, say, 8 weeks of vacation and stuff, at a certain point, you use it or lose it.
Right,
But it's not punitive. I mean, 3 weeks is not.
yeah.
So that would be what you have accrued through the end of the year. So if you want to save some money for the library budget, you could certainly take that time off.
Yep, you're
Then we
right.
pay somebody else to be here.
No, it's
Well,
gonna
other
be
people are
closed.
here
No,
anyway.
it wouldn't save anything. As far as new business, what we had talked about is doing something that would be a little, I don't know how many people have been board members who are no longer around anymore. So for the November meeting, which was the first, or the second Tuesday in November, or Wednesday, do we want to do anything bigger? Invite people, or do we just kind of want to, I'm fine with whatever discussion, but it's a discussion.
You know,
but-
there is a question about, at the special meeting, apparently it was determined that we were going to skip every other board meeting,
No,
but
that's not-
That was a regular meeting, that wasn't a special.
That was at the regular meeting? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't there. Okay.
So, there's no motion of idea, we just need to say if we want to do something more in November or not.
So what are you proposing we do?
That's why I threw it out there if anybody had an idea.
Do you have an idea?
I have nothing. I've only been around for a couple of years, so I don't, I didn't know how many, my question to you and to everybody who's been around the whole time is how many people are off the board that we'd want to invite back, or we didn't want to come back, or that type of thing, or would we wait until it reopens to do something? If nobody has a discussion, or we can just move on.
It'd be nice to do something, but I don't mind waiting until it reopens if that's kind of the spirit of celebrating the new chapter of the library.
Paying $40,000 a year to start, and then another 200,000 after that.
All right,
I don't think so.
We might not be
Committee
able to
reports?
reserve the room at that time.
we have no committee reports. Calendar meeting, as we said, the next meeting is November 8th.
What about approving vouchers in between
We've already done that. Oh,
for the next month?
there won't be any.
Yeah, there should be, I mean, hard,
Minimal.
minimal, if anything.
So anything that comes up next month can wait until the next month?
Yeah.
What
Can we the last 2
we
months?
approved today was for 2 months back.
Can we vote to authorize Tom, to delegate Tom to be responsible for that?
Let's just do it in November.
Well, seriously, I mean, if it's important
You
that we.
absolutely.
We waited 2 months last time, we could wait 2 months.
And there's gonna be even less this time, so I think we're probably well.
At what point can we stop paying $750 a month to this IT company?
Oh, we're canceling that very soon,
The what company?
our IT company.
Oh, okay.
They can come over and help me.
Motion to adjourn.
No, Friends of the Library would like to report that the book sale at the county fair was the most successful yet, and we gave out, I don't know how many hundreds of books to kids, but daggone it, every time I send a kid out the door with a book, his book, I feel like we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, it was fun to see it at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
It was good to see you there too. All right. So no further agenda items, we're actually gonna get out in an hour and 10 minutes.
All right, I have a card here that I was gonna sign for Julie, who.
Yes, thank you.
So-
Thank you, Paul. Did you get that note, Mike? Did you get that note?
You just, hey,
All right, adjourn, we're done. See you in November.
His mother, right? Her mother died,
Oh, Julie, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, yeah.